Welcome back to Coach Speak, everyone. I'm Joe Higgins. With me is Coach Rusty Richards of the Nelsonville-York football team. Coach Richards of the football team that's now 10-0. TVC champs, Doc Kroner. More paint on the wall, postseason bye, home playoff contest. How's that all sound to you, Coach?
Oh, it sounds awesome. Yeah, it's got a nice ring to it. Plus, one of our coaches said as soon as the game was over, 27 points for the 27th TVC title.
There you go.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
Pretty apropos there.
Yeah, and then last year, 26, the coach scored the game-winning touchdown with no time on the clock. So it's just sort of, I don't know. Keegan Thompson's going to have to do something next year. I guess he's 28. So.
There you go. Coach, how did the Buckeye football program do all this year? How did it do all that we just rattled off?
Great senior leadership. It starts in the winter, starts as soon as the season was over. These guys were in here the following Monday after we lost to Union Local. Had a good season, 8-2, won the TVC championship, but I think that left a little bad taste in their mouth. And, a lot of times you get complacent. These kids did not. Our captains, our seniors did a good job and just trying to go 1-0 each week and push these kids and really push them in the offseason. And, we won that game Friday night up in the trenches. Physicality,
yeah.
And that all comes in the weight room. They were quicker than us, but I don't know if we were stronger, but maybe mentally tough or whatever. But you got to get it done in the trenches, and that's what we did Friday.
Yeah, so I want to get into that against Athens. Big win there. I'll start with just Austin Gautier. I mean, he looked like he was pent up. He looked like he was ready to roll. Man possessed out there. You talked about it that a few games before, he's been coming out a little earlier because the game's been in hand and keeping rested, keeping well, but he knew coming into this one he wasn't coming out. He seemed to embrace that workhorse role. Talk a little bit about Gautier.
Yeah, he's a great team player. Those weeks, I think Ralston, he had 4 carries. He only had 4 or 5 against some of these teams. I told him, I said, his time will come. We need to work on the passing game, get our stuff going so when we have to pass it. And I said, but Athens, it's off. There's no snap count, there's no carry count, and you're gonna get as many as you need. And he had the hot hand, and I didn't really get to Walker the other night. And like I told Walker, I said, hey man, he's hot. He's a senior. Next year's your turn. Let's just jump on his back and just keep giving him the ball because like they said, the ball's not heavy, and he wanted it. And man, he made some great runs and some great cuts. And then he finished off some of those runs with just punishing some of Athens' defenders.
There in the first half, it was one of my favorite highlights as I was putting together, where he comes off the right side, gets down the sideline, makes contact, he initiates contact. They bounce off each other. He reaches, they go back and make contact again. They bounce off each other again, and just finishing the play. That was phenomenal.
Yeah, right in front of us, and he just likes to finish runs. And he was a quarterback when he came up to us, and going into his junior year, he wanted to be a full-time running back, and I told him, I said,
good choice.
We'll try it. We'll try it. We'll see how Cam works out. I said, but if he's having some growing pains, you might have to go and keep you touched up. So, Cam took it and ran with it, and Austin did his job.
So that's where some of those halfback passes have come from.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Going back to the day. On defense, and we're going to get back to the offense, of course, but on defense, Caleb Layton was patrolling that backfield. Got a sack early, I believe, but then just kind of was just a pest back there for a long time. And then finally he gets that sack there at the end, too. Talk about Caleb Layton, his impact on the Bulldogs game.
Yeah, he had a sack, I think it was like second down in the first drive, and he ended up having like 12 tackles, I believe. He had 3 sacks. He's just a kid with a motor. One of the plays that sticks out is, it was actually on their scoring drive in the fourth quarter, but it was an 18-play drive. We told him, hey, keep giving the little yards, just don't give up the big one. And we were fine. They ran like 5 minutes off, and at that point in time, we were good with that, but he had chased the running back down in. The quarterback, the Heitland kid, pulls the ball out at the last second.
Yep.
He's like 4 yards this way, puts his foot in the ground, spins, runs the quarterback down in for like a 4-yard loss. That was the play that sort of stuck out besides the sacks. Because most kids are just going to stop.
Yeah.
We're going to stop. Like
I missed him.
Somebody else, one of my 10 buddies better get him. But this kid does not stop until the whistle blows, and that's why he's the player he is. He's just relentless pursuit, and again, he just does it with a smile on his face, which is even better.
Smiles.
Great kid, and great effort every Friday night for us.
I want to switch to the offensive line, and for this conversation's purposes, I want to include Dakota Cunningham in this.
Wow.
The amount of blocking, you said you wanted the trenches, because there were times where the holes were there where Gautier had 5 yards before anybody kind of made contact with him. I remember one play in particular, Cunningham bursts up the middle, clears about two different blockers or two different defenders out, and he's excited before Gautier even got to him because he knew he had cleared the road for him.
Yeah, we were just watching that play a little bit ago on my planning period. I was going back through some of the stuff, and he hit one of their linebackers at about 5 yards downfield because the line had done opened up the gap, like you said, and here comes the linebacker scraping, and he chucked him from about 5 yards to 9 yards on his butt, and you could just see him get excited, and then went and looked for somebody else to block. So that's probably, Dakota's had some great games for us, but that might have been his best all-around game as a Buckeye for us. And I mean, blocking, he missed a few blocks. I mean, everybody does. But man, when he made contact, he just made people pay. And that young man that he hit after a few more drives, he didn't finish the game, and he just didn't want. I don't think he wanted to take on Dakota anymore.
Well,
so
I don't think
we ran ISO, and people in the football world that don't know what ISO means is we're isolating the linebacker, and Dakota's blocking him, and we ran that about 15 out of 19 plays.
Yeah.
And the other plays, Dakota got the ball, and basically just said, like, we're running inside, and we don't think you can stop us. So I think that young man got tired of Dakota hitting him, and Dakota's had a great 4 years in the weight room, and it's just those kind of games, it really pays off.
Walk me down your offensive line, Coach, your players there, and what they were doing to open those holes all night.
Yeah, actually, in that third quarter, we got into a double tight end. So it was Alec Thompson at tight end and Gavin Levy. And then our usual lineman is, start off with Will on the right, Caleb Layton, and Isaac Spillman gets him some breaks so he can be the force he is on defense. Mm-hmm. Caleb Morris at center. Brody Goodrich at left guard, and Grady Carlson at left tackle. And like I said, you got to throw Dakota in there blocking. Yeah. And man, they just opened up some holes. And we knew Athens was probably a little quicker than us on the edges, and didn't know if they'd been tested up front yet. So we were going to find out if they could stop the run, and they did a decent job, but just not good enough. So I think we rushed for over 200 plus yards again. Yeah. We only threw for 45, but the ones we did, it's all big. Every one of them was touchdown or converted for a first down, all three catches. And had a couple we just missed 6 inches or probably catches, and he goes 5 for 7. So again, when that run gets like that, when we did play action, Alec was wide open. So, and the linemen, they never even got close to Cam all night when we did pass on 7 times. So they had a heck of a game, both sides of the ball. Yeah, like I said, that offensive line, I think we're averaging 292 yards a game. So that's pretty darn good. And that's over a bunch of good teams. Big teams, Cool Grove, Trimble's always physical. That plays into what they want to do. Sure. And so we just felt like we had been tested and use that to our advantage in our tough non-league schedule. So.
Same kind of thing for the defensive side. The defensive line, I thought they were tested a few times during the game, but they really held their own, and a few times where they were holding up the line enough that your linebackers could scoot through. One play, Noah Loge points out where he got through the line there to get a quick tackle for loss, and then the fumble recoveries, which we're going to get to here in a second. But walk me down your defensive line, give them the credit.
Yeah, obviously we got Smiles, Caleb Layton, and Dakota both played great. We played a 3-man front probably 80 to 85% of the game. A couple, third and twos, we snuck someone into a 4, brought another lineman in, but Christian Bobo played in the middle. Will didn't play a bunch of snaps, but when he was very efficient, taking double teams, and again, that opens it up for our linebackers.
Boy, he had a tackle
there towards the end there, and then Spillman plays in there also. And then, like I said, that allowed, our linebackers aren't the biggest. Austin, Holden Hodson playing linebacker this week, Noah Arnold, and Noah Logie. I don't know if any of them's over 160.
Yeah.
And
Logie had a heck of a game.
All the linebackers were very, very active. And then like I said, in the secondary played great, as in we didn't give up the big pass. Mm-hmm. They got the 4th and 5 on the goal line. Great pass by the Heitland kid, went through 5 arms.
How that got through.
Great pass by him, good catch by the Thomas kid. But they didn't get beat deep, and you watch Athens and they'll hit you on the option, they'll hit you on the read. We kept 14, other than one big long run, and I think he had 2 runs over 10 yards, and most of those runs were 4 and 5, and with that kid as fast as he is, that's a win. So, and then they'll play action and take shots, and they weren't behind us. So right. Grant Elliott and Hanley did a great job back there, and then both our corners, Stone and Alec Thompson, they gave him a couple 4-yard, 5-yard catches, but they hit him pretty hard, and we got a couple drops later out of that also. So just combined. Coach Osborne, helps with the defense. Coach Cunningham, those guys and myself, we came up with a great game plan, and the kids executed it, but maybe even better than what we anticipated. So, I mean, like I said, you're going to give up plays. They got their plays, but overall, I think we won the battle as far as, we won a lot more than we lost. And that's all you can ask for.
Part of that is forcing and recovering a fumble on defense, but then twice on special teams. I mean, that's phenomenal when you can get that kind of effort out of your special teams, getting those fumble recoveries, and then basically because of that, you own the third quarter.
Yeah, they never ran an offensive play in the third quarter. Yeah, so just ironic. Both times we scored, they fumbled the kickoffs, and both those were punched out. Christian Bobo punched out one of them, and the other one, Isaac Spillman. Yep. Both of them, balls loose. They come in, they punched them out, and like I said, I think Spillman recovered the other one, and then Noah recovered the other one, and Noah got also one on defense.
Yep.
So those were big, and both times we scored off those turnovers. So that's another 14 points. We got off turnovers. So it was nice, and when you get like that and you're running the ball, I mean, it's pretty easy to call plays because we're just going to line up. We're going to take our 3 at a time, 3 or 4, and we get where we need to. We'll go for it on 4th down. I still feel like we left a couple points off the board, though. Both drives resulted in penalties. It kept us from scoring there, and so we could have had a few more, but hey, that gives us some more stuff to work on. And played really good, but we still far from perfect.
So as the final whistle starts to blow, we catch you on tape saying your chance, baby. But what does that feel like when that whistle blows and the 10-0, the paint, the TVC, all of that, Doc Kroner, all of it becomes reality?
It's just great to see for the kids. All the hard work pays off. And, because there's a lot of time. I don't think people realize how much time spent in football. So you count all the kids' hours, all of our coaches, it's in the weight room. I mean, I'm in there 5 days a week until 4 o'clock every night. Randomly miss it here and there, but I'm taking off on a Friday to do something. But most of our coaches, the majority of our players, they're in that weight room. And then you throw in all the summer hours. I mean, it's a 365-day sport, anymore. We got kids coming in at 6 a.m. before school. I got coaches that get up and do that. And so people sacrifice a lot of their time. And it's the ultimate team sport. Austin can't make those runs without the linemen. The linemen, if we don't got a very good running back, he's making bad cuts. Then it makes them look bad. Cam's throwing the ball, everybody's catching it. It's a team sport. So, special teams. We just Holden Hodson doesn't get a whole lot of credit. But the first so many punts, they never caught the ball. One time it rolled nine yards. The next time it rolled about 14. It pinned him on the one.
Right on the one.
Holden got like a 5-yard return and like a 16. Well, if he lets the one bounce another 15, we're back here. Instead, we started on their 40-yard line.
Yeah.
So all those little things add up. We weren't catching the ball. He said, "Coach, I'll catch it." Hey, tough kid, wrestler. Hey, I don't care if you return any. Just don't let it roll 25 yards, or whatever, because on these turf fields, it seems like it rolls a lot more than it stops. So just all that stuff adds up, and just to see all the hard work pay off, all the smiles on the kids' faces, the parents, the cheerleaders. And one of the best things I get out every Friday is going and joining the band. Because that's something we started. We didn't do it when I was in high school at Trimble. Went to college, well, this is pretty cool. We all learned the fight song. Like, why are we doing this? We had a new coach the same year I went in, and I thought, what? When I become a head coach, we are going to learn the fight song. So that's something we started back in 16, and it's nice. We do it on wins.
Yeah.
So if I see the band on Friday night,
it's a good night.
Yeah, even if we played bad, I'm still, at the end of the night, a win's a win. So, and to do it on Athens field, get a little redemption for Coach Boston's on our staff, Coach Dean, they were on that in 2011 team. It was nice to see the smiles on their faces because this time we won that game, in that 9-0 battle. And, it's just, it all come back to reality. And like I said, as soon as the season's over, we'll be talking about what we got to do next year to do it again. Because we want that's 27. We got the stickers today. We'll let the kids do that probably tomorrow as long as it's not raining. And as soon as the season's over, hey, we want to put up a 2026 next year. And that's just what we expect to do, and we're mad if we don't.
Still got work to do this year,
yes,
though, Coach. So this brings us into a unique situation for high school football in Ohio, in that you've got a bye this week. Not used to doing that, right? So, what does a bye week look like at Nelsonville-York?
Well, we did have that COVID year when they had the playoffs all crazy. So we did learn a little bit that year. So we're watching our film today. Obviously, we have no film to watch of our opponent yet because we don't know who we're getting. Either we'll get Afrocentric or Union Local, which would be nice to get a little rematch with them from last year. But we'll take whoever we get. And then, so we're going to do our practices tomorrow, normal, like it's normal Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday, we normally do a quick walkthrough. We're going to go helmets and shoulder pads. We do have a feed. Pretty cool this week. Sikorsky's home plate over in Gloucester is going to feed us, and Trump was going to be there too with their coaches and cheerleaders excellent. And everything. So that'll be pretty cool. This plus us being coaches last year. Yeah. Me and Dennis Osborne. Dennis put actually more in years with him than I did. And, these kids all get along. They're going to the playoffs. So they're feeding both teams and cheerleaders. So that'll be pretty cool. That's something different. And then Friday, I told them we'll see how practice goes. We might do a quick walkthrough. Might give them off. I guess we'll see how well Tuesday through Thursday goes. So, right. But back to more basics this week. Mental, work on some of these small things we need to fix. Still yuck extra points. We went 1 for 3. Luckily, we got the 2-point conversion. That made me feel better at that point in time. But, just little things and work on Nelsonville-York, and then we'll come in Monday. And it'll be a little different because we won't have any film of us to watch, and we'll just get right down to Afrocentric or Union Local.
Sure.
And then it'll be back to normal game week. So.
All right, Coach. Well, congratulations on all the success in the regular season. Still got work to do here for a long postseason run. We'll check in with you next week, and we'll talk a little bit about your opponent from there. But I appreciate you joining us here on Coach Speak.
All righty.
Thanks, Coach.
For over 50 years, locally owned C&J Tax and Financial Services in Nelsonville has been serving the community with hometown care.
We are locally owned. Our focus is on service, and we treat you like family.
Tri-County Career Center helps students build real skills for real careers. High school juniors and seniors can jumpstart their futures with hands-on training in healthcare, construction, media, and more. Visit tricounty.cc today.
Welcome back to Coach Speak. I'm Joe Higgins, and with me is Coach Wayne Dicken of the Nelsonville-York volleyball team, whose season unfortunately has come to a close, but what a great year it was for you. The district semifinal matchup versus Valley. Coach, they just didn't make a lot of mistakes for you guys to capitalize on.
Yeah, no, they're a really fundamentally sound team, a really well-coached team, and a really young team. Yeah. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with. And they were actually able to, they won the district championship on Saturday in 3 straight sets against the other Eastern teams. So they're a really good team, and like I said, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. So yeah, not a lot of opportunity for us in those games. Didn't make a lot of mistakes, so we're going to have to, see if we can get them next year in the tournament if we face up with them.
I didn't feel like your team played a bad contest. It didn't feel like you guys were making a lot of unforced errors or anything along those lines. At least from my view of it, it just seemed like, again, there wasn't a lot of opportunities to get on big runs.
Yeah, we didn't play bad at all. I didn't feel like we played a bad volleyball game. There were opportunities that we had that we maybe could have got a few more points here and there. But against a team like Valley, if you make any kind of mistake, they're going to make you pay. Yeah. And that's what they did to us. And that's what good teams do. And it was a learning season for us. So hopefully we can come back next year and learn from these mistakes and make a deeper run in the tournament.
Well, let's look back on the season overall. 500 record. But what did you feel like? Given that you lost 9 seniors before the year. You come back and you field yet another deep lineup.
Right.
You didn't have just 6 that you're playing or 8 that you're playing. You were playing a deep lineup once again after losing that many people.
Yeah, and it was a roller coaster season for us. I didn't really know what our expectations were coming into it. I knew we had a lot of talented athletes on our team, but not a lot of experience at the varsity level. And, so I didn't really know how that was going to play out. And at times I felt like we were a team that could beat anybody anybody in the area on some nights. And then there were some nights when, I didn't feel like we lived up to the expectations that we kind of set for ourselves. So, I think we learned a lot throughout the season. And I think our girls did get better. They kind of learned this game a little bit more. So with a lot of returners coming back, unfortunately, we do lose 2 seniors that, it's the end of the road for them. But, with 11 players on our varsity team that's going to be able to come back next season, I think expectations will be much higher then.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was still a great season,
yeah.
To have a down season where you're still 500,
right.
Still in the league contention and still had a shot there at the district. That shows, Coach, what you've built here as a program.
Yeah, and that's, kind of what I've told myself is there's a lot of teams in our area that would kill for a 500
Absolutely.
Season, so where our program is, it's a great feeling to know that you finish 500 and you feel like it's a little bit of a disappointment of a season, right. A little bit of a letdown. Whereas some teams, that's what they strive for. So, we're going to keep trying to build our program. We have some really good younger players coming up in that middle school level. So hopefully Buckeye Volleyball will be back on top where we feel like we belong.
Well, Coach, I want to give you a chance to kind of talk a little bit about each of your players as we wrap up the season here. And we'll start with just your freshman who really came on in the second half of the season for you in Kinsley Lanning.
Yeah, Kinsley made some big strides throughout the season. We knew she was very talented when she first came in this summer. She was a young player, coming from middle school to even to the JV level. That's a big step. Stepping into the varsity level is a much bigger one. So Kinsley has a bright future ahead of her, and we're excited to see her in our back row for many years to come.
How about Aura Swisher?
Yeah, Aura, she's another one that, is still learning the game of volleyball. And she took some big strides in our front row. I really was happy with what I saw from her in the front row of the JV team. She even got some decent varsity kills for us later in the season for us. But really fun to be around, and one of the most coachable players, I feel like, on our team. She takes everything in, and she likes to have fun, but she also likes to get to work for us.
Another underclassman in Veda Stalter.
Veda, another sophomore for us, has the potential to be the most athletic girl on the floor anytime she steps onto it. Whether or not she believes that or not, that's something we try to get out of her all the time. But Veda Stalter is such a great athlete, and we really hope that she really starts believing in herself more. And as coaches, we want to put a lot of trust into her moving forward because we think she could be a valuable asset for our varsity team next season.
We talked earlier about you losing 9 seniors last year. You have 8 juniors who will be coming back for this squad here. Shows you some more depth here. Let's start with Kat Dixon.
Yeah, Kat kind of picked up where she left off last season and kind of exceeded herself a little bit. She was the only returning starter that played the whole season for us from last year's team. So she kind of had a lot on her shoulders, kind of being the only one with varsity experience coming in. But, she stepped up for us big at times, and, she's only going to get better. And we're excited to see where the next season, her senior year, takes her.
I liked watching her athleticism.
Yeah.
She would hang in that air and then make the kill change at whatever she needed
and
to.
That's
she
even
could stay up there.
Yeah, and even coming off an ACL injury. Her
crazy.
Freshman year, she tore ACL completely. So she's really still trying to get back from that. And the fact that she's as athletic as she is, it's really admirable because she works really hard.
A new Buckeye that came to your program. Didn't get to use her for the second half of the year, but you will next year.
Yeah.
And Bailey Tomlin, and I loved watching her power.
Yeah, she really can put the ball down, and she's such a valuable asset for us in the front row. She played outside hitter for us this season, but really we feel like she could play an outside hitter, a middle, or a right side for us and be a crucial element of our offense. We're going to be very excited to have her for the entire year next year because when she went out this season, it kind of felt like there was a piece of us missing. And I'm not sure we ever got over that hump of not having her, but having her for all next season, it's going to be really exciting.
Coach, Ava Nungester is such a fun player to watch. Deceptively quick, very quick decision making as well, and then can serve right up there with her. So tell me a little bit about her.
We really love Ava in the back row because of her aggressiveness. She really, she's not afraid to go for a ball. Where sometimes girls, sometimes anybody, you don't want to get in anybody else's way out there, and you kind of back off. Not Ava. She's aggressive. She's going to go for the ball. She calls it and takes it. And that's what we really love for our back row players. And Ava, she's loud, she communicates well, and that's what we really look for in our back row. And luckily she was able to do that, and she earned herself a regular position for us. So we're excited to have Ava back next year also.
A lot of fun to watch. One of your 5-tool players for sure, doing a baseball analogy during the World Series here, Morgan Lehman.
Yeah, Morgan. Very, very knowledgeable volleyball player. And I think that's an aspect of her game that gets overlooked, is how smart she is. Last year we had a Megan Booth as our setter, and I always told Megan to be my general on the floor. And I feel like Morgan is capable of doing that. And she did that some this year, and we're going to look for her to do that next year for us for sure. But Morgan, she's not only athletic, but she's very cerebral, and she understands the game of volleyball, and I'm excited to see her leadership continue to flourish going into next season, because that's going to be really important for us to have somebody on the floor that is very smart and knows what to do with the volleyball and can communicate that with her teammates.
Great linchpin to have for this year's
for sure.
group. Talk about the development of Caitlin Alvis.
Yeah, Caitlin is a sweet girl. One of the nicest girls you'll ever meet, and she is. We've always wanted her to be a little more aggressive. That's kind of been, you need to get a little more aggressive, almost a little more mean sometimes. And, without being, hurtful to the team, but be a little more mean sometimes. And she was able to do that. She was able to, once she got her opportunity, really, she's very consistent. She's a very consistent player with her swing. Her blocking, she brings a good block to the net, and we're going to get her stronger, and we're going to continue to see her progress. And she's another hard worker that I think is really ready to take that next step into being a more productive player and a dominant player for us on the floor.
Coach, what is it about Maya Schultz when she gets to that service line? It feels like more often than not, it's going to be an ace. Just in one way or another, the team's going to have a hard time returning that point or whatever it may be for Maya.
And Maya is, got a great serve on her for one thing. Very consistent. Another one like Caitlin Alvis, where she's very consistent. And her energy is unmatched on the team. She, whether or not she's on the floor or she's on the bench, she always brings that extra spark to us. And she is one of the most positive players I think I've ever coached in my entire career. And I know there were times, especially later in the season, when she felt like maybe she wishes she would have been on the floor more than what she was, but it never showed on the floor. It never showed with her teammates. She was always so positive. And when she got in there, she made the most out of her opportunity. Even when we put her in, the district semifinal matchup against Lucasville Valley, we had to put her, we didn't have to put her in, but she earned that opportunity to go into the game, and she produced great for us. And we played her that second and third set, and she did a great job for us. So Maya plays a lot of club volleyball, and we're excited to see how much more she grows in this offseason, leading into her senior year.
It was just like a running joke for our broadcast. We were like, okay, is it the first serve or the second serve she's going to get an ace?
Yeah, she's got a great serve on her for sure.
Also in our broadcast, at the end, Jim McCumber would always end out with, and a whole lot of digs, Ella Volkin. Talk about what she was doing for you as a libero and as a leader for this team.
Yeah, Ella's another one that is very vocal in the back row.
Should I say Juanita?
Yeah, Juanita. She's another one in our back row that's very vocal for us and loud, and that's what you need out of that libero position. You need someone that's going to take control in that back row and talk to our hitters, talk to our other back row players about what they need to be doing, because volleyball, it gets so loud out there on the floor. Like, we need somebody that can take control, and Ella does a great job of doing that. She's also very scrappy. She's a very tough player. She dives for balls that you don't think she has a chance of getting, and then she'll get to them.
Somehow,
she gets to them.
Quickness is there again.
Yeah, several times after games this season, other coaches would come up to me and compliment her style of play, because she's just so aggressive out there. Her and Ava both really aggressive back row players, but. Juanita gets to a lot of balls for us, and she brings a good energy to our floor. Sometimes we hope that she's not so hard on herself, because she's hard on herself a lot. But when she's on, she's tough to find another one that's better than her.
Very fun player to watch.
Yeah.
We'll wrap up the juniors with another fun player to watch. Probably a great overall athlete. The way she jumps, the way she moves, and the way she hits in Maddie Pidcock.
Yeah, Maddie stepped up big for us this season. And we saw it at the end of last year. She ended up playing in our district championship game and our regional game for us last year as just a sophomore, because she, earned her spot in there. She's such a diverse player and an athletic player. She brings an energy to the floor that really, it's you have to have it on there. Sometimes she'll not want to play the back row if she's not having a great game, but you have to have her on the floor at all times, because she brings such energy to the team and a leadership out there. She's not always easy on her teammates.
Right.
She holds them accountable. She's never mean to them or anything, but she holds her teammates accountable.
Expectations.
Yes, and she holds herself accountable. I think that's what her teammates respect out of her is, she might, have you tell you to pick it up, but she also says, that one's on me, and she's able to do that. I coached a player like her a few years ago, Mackenzie Hurd. Mackenzie Hurd was another one that held her teammates very accountable, but also would hold herself accountable. And Mackenzie's played Division I basketball after that, so the future's bright for Maddie Pidcock, and we're excited to see where she goes.
Now the hard part, Coach, and you got to say goodbye to your 2 seniors here. I'm sure you've already done that physically.
Yeah.
Now we got to do it here on Coach Speak. And we'll start with Katie McKinney, and you talk about another 5-tool player and what she would do and how she did things out there. And the owner of my favorite play, the little quick kill. Yeah. Anytime that was I'm always going to laugh about it. I love that play. There's a highlight on our social media pages about her doing that once more. Tell me about Katie.
Yeah, Katie's another one that her progression throughout the season really, and her knowledge of the game really grew throughout the season. And by the end of the year, I felt like she was playing her best volleyball, especially defensively. Mm-hmm. We knew that she was a good setter, and she had good hands, and that little dump over, she always knew when to mix that into the game. But her defense and her, she started understanding how to play defense a little bit more in the back row for us. And she got aggressive and scrappy out there. And all the coaches agreed, from the beginning of the season to the end, she really probably showed the most progress on defense for us. And we were excited for her, that she had such a good finish to her season. We hate to see her leave, but, she did a lot of great things for us, serving, setting, defensively, and she had a few good kills in there for us. So going to be hard to replace Katie McKinney, but, she had a great year for us.
She found a way to shine. And coming in from last year's seniors group, she found a way to shine this year, and so did her counterpart in Lexi Warren.
Yeah, Lexi. Coming off last season, we talked about this to Lexi in the locker room after the last game. She missed all last year due to a knee injury, and so a whole year of progression and development, kind of was taken from her because of this injury. Mm-hmm. And for her to do what she did this year, step onto the varsity floor for the first time ever, and give us the production that she did, I don't know very many girls that could have done that. And she did a great job, big time kills for us all throughout the season, big time serving. She led our team in serving aces throughout the year, and
it's because you got 20 in that one last game.
On senior night. I mean, right in a row. It seemed like she would go on these runs sometimes where it didn't matter who we were playing; they just could not return her serves. And she's going to be another one like Katie. Both of these seniors, they were the only 2 that made it all the way through high school. I think they had 10 or 11 girls come into their freshman year, and these were the 2 that stuck it out. And, they're going to be really missed. Their leadership, they didn't miss one workout in summer. Like every single day, we would go Monday through Thursday, sometimes twice a day. Neither one of them missed an entire time, the entire summer. And, with vacations and things like that, you would think that they would have a week where they were off, and they never did. They waited until they saw the break that we had right before the season started, and that's when they took their vacations because they did not want to miss a volleyball workout.
Dedication.
They set the tone right there for the team, and I thought that was, I really respected that commitment from them.
This was obviously the first time in a long time I've been able to cover a season extensively, and especially for one team extensively. Those seniors really set the tone, and they impressed throughout. And what you have coming back next year is what I want to get to now, because you have all this talent coming back, but you had a JV team that was also very well. Their record was really good, and then the JV2 as well. So everybody's kind of moving up into it. Sounds like that next year your expectations are going to be even higher. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Nope.
And that you're going to have a lot of competition within that's going to sharpen. Steel's going to sharpen steel.
Yeah, absolutely. Our expectations going into next season is we're going to be back on top of the TVC. A lot of teams in our league have a lot of really good players come back. There weren't a lot of seniors in our league this year. I think Alexander had the most, which they won the league this year. So I'm sure Coach Hill from them will have their team ready to go again. But not a lot of teams lost seniors. And in the hockey division or the Ohio division, really. So we're going to see a lot of really good competition next year. But we feel like with the progression we made it throughout this season and what we hope to make throughout the spring and the summer leading into next year, we feel like we have every opportunity to be back on the top of the TVC-Ohio division, put some more numbers on our banner, and that's always the goal. We always want to put a league title or district title on our championship banners. And we feel like with the group that we have coming back, with the group that we have moving up, we're absolutely capable of doing that.
It's going to be fun next year, Coach, but enjoy the offseason with what you can. Really appreciate you joining us on Coach Speak each and every week and talking about your girls, and it's been an absolute blast to cover volleyball for you.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Coach.
My name's Dee Dee Loge, and I'm owner of Pidcock Glass in Nelsonville, Ohio. If your home is in need of 1, 2, or even up to 12 vinyl replacement windows, Pidcock Glass can help. Please call Pidcock Glass at 740-753-4527.
Has your provider network changed? Are you new to Medicare? Have questions? We have answers. Remember, our meeting together is free of charge. The insurance company pays me, not you.
Give David Loge a call today, 753-3376.
Welcome back, everyone, to Coach Speak. I'm Joe Higgins alongside the coaches Yingers, Collin, and Matt joining us here of cross country. Coaches, you guys are done with your regional race. Tell us how that went for your group.
It went pretty good. We ended up having the three boys run, Stevie Blair, Colin McKinney, and Noah Van Dyke. And they all three kind of ran their time. They've ran all year long. You know, we had kind of hopes and dreams of, hey, you know, Stevie maybe breaking 18s or getting low 18s. Colin trying to break 19, and Noah, you know, get back into the 19s. But you're kind of the runner who you are. You know, the pace you've been running all year long, you know, it's kind of who you are. Usually you're not just going to go out and change your pace by a minute. It's just, it's hard. It takes, the training just got to keep improving for something like that to happen. But it was the race they ran, and it was good to see them, you know, running that competitive of a race.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, they went and kind of did what they've done for the last 4 or 5 weeks and ran the times they've been running. They didn't fall apart and choke, and they didn't blow it out of the water. And, you know, obviously we'd love to see them blow it out of the water, but that's just tough to do. But the good thing is they didn't choke. They went there, they showed up, and they ran. And the one thing they took away from it right away after I talked to them right after the race was how many people were in it. There were like 270 runners, and they haven't ran with that many. Mm-hmm. We were in the middle box 14 out of about 40, so they kind of got trapped in early, and that really set them back, and they're not used to fighting through that crowd to get out early. And I think that set them back. So overall, it was a great experience. I think they learned a lot from it, and I think it definitely sets them up to know, hey, you know, we want to get back there and do this, and they have 2 more opportunities for the 2, Stevie and Colin, and Noah's a freshman, so he has a couple more.
Yeah. I wanted to get to that a little later, but we'll touch on the experience this whole group has gotten this year. But I want to give this time now to let you break down, as we wrap up the season, each of your runners, and we'll start with your record-breaking, your now school holder, in Stevie Blair.
Yeah, you know, I know me and Coach couldn't say enough good things about Stevie. Not alone, obviously, he's a great runner, you know, and he's kind of been the trailblazer for our program, you know, and it's kind of set the tone of like, hey, all the other runners are wanting to be fast. I've watched our training really progress, especially this year. You know, Stevie was close to the record last year, didn't get it, but I think anybody Stevie's going to be around in his life are going to be better and more successful because of being around Stevie. Just, again, you know, a great runner, but even a better kid, you know. I think he got academic. I know he got academic all league this year. He got academic all district for qualifying the regionals and having, you know, above a 3.5 GPA. So, you know, not alone is he, hey, you know, a great runner and setting records and the trailblazer for our team and getting all the kids to follow along with him, he's also just a great kid and does it in all parts of his life.
Yeah, he doesn't say a lot. He just gets it done. You know, he's very quiet, soft-spoken. You know, when he was the one race, I'm not sure which race it was, but it was a second from Alexander maybe, when he missed the record by a second. You could see, no, that's where he got the record. Fed Hawk. I went up and, you know, I said, hey, congratulations, you're close, you're right there. But you could just see the frustration on his face. He didn't say anything. He doesn't blurt back. He doesn't argue. You can see the frustration. You know, he wants to do well. He wants to succeed, and not just at running, anything he does in life. And he's going to be a very successful young man.
We'll see what's in his future, but a fellow sophomore, Colin McKinney.
Yeah, and kind of, you know, Stevie's Robin to Batman, or however you want to say it. They're kind of the duo, and I think they've always been kind of, you know, almost best friends or great friends growing up. So it's great to have those two together running. Colin's got a very long, lengthy frame, and, you know, so from early on in the year, he tried to tell me, you know, it wasn't a sub 21 minute 5K runner, which I knew would be easy for him once he starts running well. And me and him had our battles of arguing with him, saying, you're faster than, you know, what you think you are. And obviously he showed it the last 2 weeks of the year, getting 2 5Ks that were in the 1930 range, which were great races, and kind of really learned to use that lengthy frame. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, you know, part of his success, I think, has been help, you know, comes from Stevie. Obviously, those two really started training together last month and really pushing each other. So it was great to see, you know, them work together and help each other, you know, set the bar even higher for each other.
Yeah, it was great to see Colin. You know, he started a year out at Wellston at 24 minutes, and I think back to that, and I just think that's crazy because I knew he wasn't a 24-minute runner. And me and Coach Collin talked all year about, you know, how are we going to get him down there? When are we, you know, we know he can do this. And he gradually started moving it down. And then when he finally he went from 20 2030 to 20 pretty much even, then to 1930 it was nice to see. It was something we knew he could do, and you could just kind of see the confidence in Collin's face. In each race, you could see the confidence is growing. Like, man, I know I can do this. I'm only going to get faster. And so it was nice to see that. And he really made some big-time strides and something to build on for the next couple years.
So young talent gets younger when we talk about Noah Van Dyke.
And yeah, I know I actually want to add on. Collin was academic all-district as well, and so is Noah Van Dyke. So that's obviously me and Coach Matt, I know, Coach Yinger put a big emphasis on, not only running, but the classroom. And so it was great to see those three earn that award. Noah, we got him this year as a first-year runner, as a freshman. They running, in cross-country, they start you at middle school with a 2-mile race to kind of build up the endurance because it's, a 5K, 3 miles isn't bad, but it's not easy, especially when you're trying to run sub-6-minute miles, right? Sure. You're trying to run under, 7-minute mile pace. And so it was definitely a learning curve for him to understand running. I think still is. So I know there's a lot more out for him because I know he's a pretty good runner, especially just trying to learn it. So once he understands the racing part of it more and just how to kind of pace and get out a little bit faster, he runs a great pace. But sometimes, like this weekend was such a big race, he kind of got pushed the back, and it hurt him a little bit. But just works hard, doesn't say much, but it's always willing to work hard and put in the miles, and had a great year, making it to regionals as a freshman.
Yeah, he started off at the beginning of the year, and we wasn't sure where he was going to fit in. He was running about 10-30 miles training the first about month, and we just wasn't sure, if he was going to be, not necessarily an elite runner, but a really good runner or an average runner. And then, man, as the season got going, you could see the competitiveness take over, and, he started running harder and harder, and the time started dropping, and it was one of those things, he felt, great about it, and he got in a groove, and it just kind of stuck with him, and he really grew up a lot. I think he's just going to get faster over the next couple years.
Excellent. Let's touch on some of your other runners and start with Raiden Boney.
Yeah, Raiden, he's a coach's dream. He'll do anything you tell him to. He's one of those kids you tell him to run through a wall, and you've always heard coaches say that, but that he really would. Like, Raiden almost does anything we tell him to do, no matter what it is. And we get the luxury of coaching him in wrestling and cross country, And Raiden, when it comes to cross country, doesn't have the best runner's frame, kind of built more like me and my dad's stockier frame, shorter legs, but more muscular upper body. And so it's not always easy, especially when you run against some of these kids like Colin McKinney, who's like, 6'1", probably 6'2". But Raiden, man, you watch him run. So you watch some kids run that's effortless, right? It seems easy. Raiden, he's giving you everything he has because, man, he's just his body and his facial expressions, you can tell he's really hurting. But, he's never going to give up on himself and always pushes through his races. And that, end up only missing the regionals by 2 seconds. But he was always having, the race he needed to have, and was always a solid runner. Yeah, he's, like he said, he's built a little more stockier. I think he'd be better for maybe even longer distance, like 10Ks. I think you could see him keep a 10K pace for quite a bit, or even a half marathon. But those 5Ks for people like me and Coach Collin, they're tough because they're more of a sprint race. And Raiden, I'm telling you, he sprints pretty much the whole time. He runs hard. And he just doesn't have the great runner's body. Got more of a wrestler's body, and that's kind of his sport. And but Raiden's a great kid. He'll do anything you ask of him, and we never have to worry about, is he going to show up? Is he going to do the right things? He always does.
And then your lone senior in the program, and Derek Mason.
Yeah, me and Coach Matt have been around Derek for now 4 years. We got Derek as a runner, as a freshman, and then Derek wrestled for us last year. But we've loved Derek to death and kind of taken him under our wings the last few years. But he ran as a freshman, came out, the very beginning of the school year and did pretty well, and then didn't run as a sophomore. And then we got him back last year for a few races and did really great. And then kind of this year he juggled football and cross country, but ended up, having a good, his last race was one we needed him to have a good one in, and he did, and it qualified him for the regionals. And, it was great to have him around some of the younger guys. And he was, part of our team, right? Because cross country had to have 5 runners, and he was our 5th runner. So, having him allowed us to have a team, and it's just been great coaching him.
Yeah, it's funny because when he came out as a freshman, he ran the first 400, and he'd be in the lead. Literally, he'd come out like, he just shot out of the gate, and the other coaches started noticing, like, man, that kid can run an amazing 400. But then he would die, and he would come back in about the middle of the pack. And he just didn't quite have that, running mentality down yet. And then last year when he ran the regionals for us, he ran a great race, and you could just see he started figuring it out. And like Coach said, this year he kind of juggled the two, so that made it tough. but he had a great regional or district and was able to qualify for the regionals also.
Coaches, I think you talked about this season as far as developing expectation as you went through it. So I wanted to ask both of you just your evaluations on this season as a whole and how that sets the tone for expectations for next year.
One of the things I'm, most happy about and going to be kind of having a positive mentality going into the off season and into next year is I really saw the mentality of our runners change this year. Not necessarily even times getting faster, but hey, by the end of the year I started seeing our guys finish races with not maybe a smile on their face, but they're more ready to, hey, we got our cool down jog now, more ready for the practices the next week. And, we got a few of the runners interested in, I think, continually run after school, try to keep, ourselves in somewhat shape so we don't lose our, because if we take 2-3 months off, we're going to lose a lot of it. Mm-hmm. So, the mentality of them committing to wanting to be cross-country runners and be distance runners has really improved, which has obviously been a good thing to see. And I know they've even talked about trying to get more boys out next year as a high school team because they want us, they want to make the regionals next year, and I know they do. And we barely missed it this year, and so I know next year we're coming into the year from day one having those expectations of, hey, we're going to be regional qualifiers as a team, and we're going to really start to try to make some noise. Hopefully in the TVC, I know our goal next year the team's hopefully top 2, top 3 in the TVC, and I know that these young boys have some high expectations.
Yeah, and we're building a culture now, and there is some expectations now, and we got to get guys down in the 17s now. That's got to be the goal, Drop down. Steve was 1830, so now we got to get down in the 17s, and those guys in the 19s down into the 18s. Mm-hmm. I think the way I look at it, everybody's got to knock off 30 seconds or more, maybe 45 seconds between last year and next year. And I've ran quite a bit my whole life, and I used to set myself out when I would do a half marathon. I'd give myself a year. So if I was running one in March, I would really start training in March. So now we've kind of done that. We've been training since June. So now I feel like next June we should really be getting to that point because we've really put in a good 6 months right now. And I know the next 6 months isn't going to be the same with winter and basketball and wrestling and everything. But if we can get back in, March, April, May and put in a good few months ahead of time, there's no reason why we can't be, one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the TVC. You're going to have Athens going to be fast. Vinton will be fast. We should be right there. And then the same with the districts. I think we need to get there as a team next year. So the expectations are there. The youth is there. And you got to have youth. So that's nice. So we got a young group. And two junior high kids coming up and some nice junior high girls that will be 8th graders. And I'd like to get some more females out next year. And that would be nice. So we have expectations, and we're building a little bit of a culture. So we're on our way.
Well, that's excellent. Coaches, congratulations on all the progress and success you guys had for the program this year and your runners. We appreciate you doing Coach Speak every week. We really do. We'll hit you more for that next year, but in the meantime, we'll catch you on the wrestling mats here shortly.
Couple months, yep.
Thanks, coaches.